Oh my gosh, Michelle! Hey, so good to see you. How you been? I am. How crazy is this? I love your book. I love your material. Keeping Calm in Chaos. You know, there's something about being out in the cold that helps me do that. So I thought I would take the book out.
I've never seen anyone use it as this kind of outdoor adventure tool. But
well, I think more people should. So let's do that. Hey, you want to catch up? You want to go for a ride? Sure. Awesome. Let's go.
Perfect.
And today on Driving Leadership, my guest, Michelle Courtney Berry, CEO of Courtney Consulting Enterprise, LLC, is joining me. So Michelle, tell me a little bit about your organization.
Sure. So I started my company, which is Courtney Consulting Enterprises, LLC, and my middle name is Courtney. And a lot of people think I named my business after me.
Yes.
But my middle name was given to me by an aunt who said, one of my favorite aunts who helped raise me when I was little, because my mom was really overwhelmed and kind of had major kind of mental health crisis at the time of my birth. So
Sure.
Two of my aunts really helped out. My biological father skipped town. And so my aunt who helped raise me, my Auntie Desi, said, I don't know why, but I'm telling you, her middle name needs to be Courtney. And so Courtney really is in honor of thinking about my aunt saying that needed to be my middle name. And so I think about, like, when I first started my business, I was just kind of accidental. You know, I was coaching some people naturally and helping them kind of find their voice, and was really interested in how something that I love to do, like speak in front of people, could be so terrorizing for others. So it kind of started out as a speaking coach, and I loved helping people. And I noticed whether it was retooling a website or helping them with a speech or dealing with a brand, what really resonated the most for me is that people talked about their stress.
Yeah.
And I really wanted to help them. I wanted them to have a more peaceful life. I wanted them to, even if successful, if they're so stressed and not sleeping and not eating well and not hydrating, then what did success mean?
So are people finding you proactively, or is it more of a reactive measure of I'm so stressed, I need help?
Yeah, usually it's a family member or friend who contacts me and says, you got to work with my / fill in the blank partner.
Gotcha.
Husband.
Gotcha.
Neighbor.
Not quite intervention, but almost.
Yeah, but it's really third-party endorsements that
absolutely
that do it.
What is what is your leadership story? I'd love to hear people's paths.
Sure.
And you're leading in so many ways. You're leading your own work, your own organization. So why did you rise to leadership?
I think accidentally, right? I started out behind the scenes. No, that's not true. My parents pushed me in front of the scenes. I started as a shy person, which nobody would really believe, as an introvert. And my parents were like, we really want you to be a broadcaster. I want you to be in television. And I wasn't even sure I wanted to do that, but I wanted to please them. But when I went to graduate school, I really more focused on being the person who help people tell their stories. And so I was kind of more interested in public relations, which I think a lot of journalists go into PR. And then from that, I went into politics. But I started in politics behind the scenes as the person who was kind of helping candidates frame messages. And so, and then I got a public job where I was a spokesperson for a mayor's office in Binghamton, and then was really out in front. But I got laid off from a job where I was working in advertising and marketing and research, and the person who was the very quiet graphic designer in the office, we were both getting laid off, and I was account executive, and she goes, oh, why don't you just go talk to my sister? And she'd been very private, and I thought, oh, I don't know, who's your sister? And she goes, my sister's the mayor. So I went and met with her. She's the first woman mayor of the city. Her name was Juanita Crabb, and she's like, so when can you start? After a few moments. And I just thought, and she goes, well, Claire is my favorite sister. And I was like, huh. So I got the job and thought, what does a director of community relations do? and because I started my business in graduate school where I was still consulting part-time and kind of figuring out how to piece that together and work full-time. But I think that way of kind of being thrust into the public eye and having to kind of hit the ground running with your skills, but not really quite sure, but got to figure it out because you're on TV.
Right.
Yeah. So I think from that, and then I was reappointed by the next mayor who came in, who was a different political party. So I worked for both a Democrat and a Republican, and that was really great, like having those perspectives working across the aisles.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah, and I think I was probably the only Black woman Democrat spokesperson for a Republican mayor in the state, or ever, right? And so I worked with Rich Bucci for a while, and then when I moved to Ithaca, I ran for office. And I think that's when I realized, like, I didn't want to just be the spokesperson or the person writing the materials or the speeches for the elected person. I wanted to be elected. And that was, I think, then, so when I ran for office, then it kind of all followed. Then I kind of like started teaching and was a college professor for a while. I think all of these things where I had that background of speaking, I now realize, like, I want to really go out there and lead. I think I have really important things to say, and but I also realize, like, to be a good leader, you have to be a good follower too. And
sure.
and who did I admire, and who did I learn from, and what early mistakes did I make that I could, use as lessons. So, I think all of those experiences that were always deeply rooted in communications just led to those kind of people experiences and running town hall meetings and dealing with angry constituents. Like, everything prepared me for coaching my clients to how to deal with the public and deal with risk and change, which most people don't want to deal with. Right?
No, but the culmination of all those experiences and getting, in a way, to practice, right? Practice your skills has led you to this place.
I think no matter what we read or who we meet, like the gift and joy of the work is everybody shows up as an individual and you meet them where they're at.
Absolutely.
And I always thought the people who had the most money would be less stressed, like somehow money would change, but I would find it would be more stressed. Like, they'd be worried about where their investments or where their money will go, or the markets, or, so it's not going to buy happiness. And so I look at people who are really at the top of their game and really making, big numbers and turning out big contracts. Like, this might be with like big business owners or athletes that I've worked with. And just to see that they have the same tender spots or insecurities as everyone else, like just finding that the ways we align, or the intersectionality between us, regardless of our differences. Like, what are these key 3 things that keep coming up, regardless of people with less money or more means? And the same 3 things keep popping up every time.
What are they? What are those 3 things?
That keep people stuck seems to be this incredible amounts of perfectionism.
Yeah.
And that's married to procrastination, right? Because those are twins. That's an infinite loop between the two. So we seem to have in common high performing visionary leaders or perfectionists who go through bouts of what they find is shameful procrastination, which I try to explain to them is inevitable.
Okay. What makes that inevitable?
Because if you feel everything you touch has to be perfect, and you can't make any mistakes, well, you're going to burn the candle proverbially at both ends.
Yeah. Sometimes I look for a spot in the middle.
Yes.
No, I hear you.
So from this high performance, it's not sustainable because the immune system will weaken and you will get sick. Right. And so you'll either get sick and or burn out. And even if you don't, because your foot is never off the accelerator, you're going to have to eventually slow down from fatigue.
Right.
So that fatigue, and also your disappointment in yourself that you aren't perfect, which you can't be, leads you to put off things that you do need to prioritize. And so the procrastination hits, and then what happens after that is pride.
Interesting.
So perfectionism, procrastination, and pride are these 3 dreaded P's. They all intersect. And so you might have too much pride to ask for help, to get professional help. You might have too much pride to let anybody see a little crack in the veneer.
Right.
Because if they think you're a magician and you believe they're hiring you based on this perfectionism, or they're employing you or promoting you, you will not show what you consider the weakness. So that, of course, Brene Brown, like, and all of that stuff about vulnerability is so life-changing for people to realize vulnerability is a strength.
Right.
But to read it, but to be it, very different. If you present a perfect picture, I mean, when we do those wellness programs at work, I say to people all the time, please don't get the person who runs marathons, who's your quote unquote fittest person,
right?
Because that's the ideal that people feel they can't live. That's a magazine.
That's right.
Get the person who says, I just gave up smoking, or I'm still smoking, or I'm having a difficult time walking, or I haven't walked in a year, or I don't drink any water.
Authentic.
Yeah, that's the person that should lead the team, because more people are not drinking enough water. More people are not moving enough. Like, so, you can read these articles that say, like, sitting is the new smoking, but I'm just like, that's not how I lead my bit. Like, I'm more interested in, can you walk a little? If you're smoking, can we get you in a cessation program? But not judging it, and also not creating these terrifying statistics that make you think, well, if it's the new smoking, I've been sitting forever, what's the point of getting up? Like, I think
we know those don't work.
No.
We know that kind of education or scare
fear-mongering
does not create positive behavior change, right?
No.
Neither does emulating a model that's too far out of our reach or grasp, right? Like you said, a magazine, it's beautiful, it might sell something, but it's not going to change my behaviors as strong. What calls to action do you have for leaders today?
Well, to really look at these statistics about job stress, and they're extremely alarming, right? I'm not going to regurgitate tons of statistics, but the ones that keep, sticking out, right, is that the number one stressor for our American employers and some international, right, is job stress. It's a huge driver in affecting productivity, profitability, process, and creativity.
You're reminding me of a statistic I did just see, that it's 70% of an individual's mental health well-being is directly related to the relationship they have with their manager, supervisor, leader. Right. 70% of their mental health.
Yep.
I couldn't believe that.
But now,
I mean, I can, but it's like, wow.
But Bill, now look at this. Now you take 60% of managers don't have management experience or training.
Wow.
Right. So they're promoted into a job and no one's giving them time.
Right.
It's not their fault.
All
but
good
they
intentions.
need appropriate training, right? So they don't often have the training or the EI for the demands of a dispersed hybrid workplace, particularly that is constantly having to embrace change, right, or cannot thrive. And then we're not having conversations about so the other call to action is looking at the incredible richness in this intersectional, multi-generational workforce. But you have to understand how the different generations work. And you have to have conversations about what we were told about work when we started working, because it's vastly different, right? Instead, what are your end goals? So how do you want to grow? How do you want to contribute? What do you want to learn?
The outcome mindset.
Right. And so I encourage my clients, that's the first thing we do, is we do that exercise. Because then I get people thinking about what really stirs you, what drives you. And you often find, you think people are going to talk to you about luxury items, or they're going to talk to you about material acquisition. And you know this, they want to take a nap, they want to connect with beloveds, they want to they want to rest, and they want to feel like if they put it down, they won't actually fall into such a mental health crisis from things they've been putting off, that they won't recover. And they want to believe if they put some work down, they won't be punished later. We punish people for vacations. It's just true in the United States.
And you want to know that if you put it down, it'll be there to pick up later, right? Michelle, thank you so much. This has been awesome.
Oh, yeah, I had a great time.
It was awesome bumping up against you in the park. That was so cool.
Absolutely. Go figure. Who knew?
Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah.